It's currently the youngest continent. And in a couple of years, you say 20 to 30 years, I mean, 60% of the African population is going to be lower than the age of 30. What does that mean? That means that you have a huge talent pipeline, and that means that we are having to compete on a global scale. Why? Because the continents that have older populations are going to need those who have the younger minds, are more innovative, and can create more solutions with the speed of light to be able to engage. Now, you're talking about youth and you're talking about capacity development. We've talked about all the concerns. She has mentioned the issue as regards digital infrastructure, there is no electricity and things like that. The second data point I would like to say is that because of the advent of artificial intelligence, this is something that did not start last year. For the past 10, 20 years, literally there have been systems and models that have been built. The question to ask, and I think in terms of rephrasing how to understand how digital infrastructure is constantly innovating, is how are we positioning for the future of work? That's the question to ask, because the truth is, we have a lot of problems when it comes to skill building and infrastructure. Number one, I will tell you that there is a skill mismatch between the technical competencies that are required in today's climate of work and what we learn in traditional forms and means of education. Our universities are teaching us a curriculum that existed as far back as our fathers, our baby boomers generations ago. So on what basis can you compete with the average 7-year-old in Beijing in China in terms of skill development and capacity? Now, this is not about woes and woes. I can tell you very strongly that the Nigerian government, as well as some private sector and public sector players, are doing extremely good work in terms of capacity development, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence and digital technology. For example, I mentor with Google. Every single year, there is a $150,000 fund that is given non-dilutive, equity-based, that is given to startups and business owners who are building something in the realm of technology. We do this without asking for any feedback. There are several accelerator and incubator boot camps. I can give you, for example, Andela is one of them, ALX Africa is one of them, and some of you here can even recall that we have these organizations that are upskilling our talent pool. But I can tell you that it is not enough. We constantly have to think of ways to ensure that we are playing in a global market, because that's the competition. We are no longer sitting in our silos and saying, oh, the work will come to us. If you cannot work in an organization, you can get the skills that can build an organization, and you can be an employer of labor, not just an employee in labor. Right? So that's something that we really need to understand, because it starts from the mind first. I'm going to give two examples of some things that the government is doing right now to ensure that there's capacity development. How many of us heard of the launch of the learning language model that was brought by the Minister of Digital Communication, What that is, so if you don't know about it, please read up on it. What is being done right now is that we literally have established a National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. This was done in April, and the goal of this is to train 3 million technical talents. It's actually called the 3MTT program that ensures that we have these talents that are able to build with artificial intelligence products, innovate and solve rural and domestic problems that are affecting different realms in terms of different sectors, healthcare, logistics, climate. The third thing I will end with this, because there's just a lot to unpack, is the fact that in terms of digital technology, if you notice today, the startups that are called the unicorns of the world came from youths. And these companies actually are a source pool for actually getting talent. Internships can be gotten there. You have a lot of people that are being recruited both domestically, right? So one of the things to also realize is that it is a very good way to even bring in foreign direct investment. Because I think the data point in 2022, we had about $4.8 billion come into the African tech ecosystem alone, and Nigeria got a whopping 60% of that chunk. Now, in 2024, we realized that although there seems to be a funding winter, but it's still growing. So as much as we are a very nascent market, the potential for us to begin to be thinking like innovators and not scavengers is right before our eyes. There's so many platforms, so many accelerator bootcamps, so many technological products that are being launched, and of course there's so many platforms. We just have to position properly and know this. You are not competing as a local. You think local, but you drive and you build globally. And that's one of the best ways to solve the problem when it comes to youth intelligence and impact and artificial intelligence.
Thank you so much, Rosie. I think for every time I have you speak, it shows that young people are not useless, but they are useless. Thank you very much. Over to you, Charles.
Young people are not useless, but are useless, so we can use more.
So over to you, Charles. I was building up your question from Dr. Vanessa's response to her question. That's because I'm looking at the context in terms of engaging and building young people's skills. We run an organization that I'm part of that deals with conflict-prone areas. I know the government have told us to be careful not to call them conflict-prone areas, but that is what it is.